Hello, my fellow extraordinary Americans. My name is Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America? Well, you see, America has always been about freedom, opportunity, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt. Wealth and income inequality is the norm now, and the middle class has all but disappeared. So Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and the descendant of immigrants restoring the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through financial education. It is through becoming entrepreneurs and investors on the light side. In this podcast, I interview fellow Americans who fought against the odds. Many of them came from humble beginnings to see how they did it. It is my hope through these interviews that the extraordinary within you shall awaken and that you will abolish financial slavery from your life and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Benjamin Chen. Ben is a young Gen Z entrepreneur, investor, and programmer who currently specializes in real estate investing and renting out his houses through Airbnb. With a diverse range of experiences, he has ventured into various hustles throughout his journey. During his middle school years, Ben took it upon himself to learn coding, using his skills to generate extra income. In college, he successfully managed a thriving FBA slash multi-channel e-commerce business. Post-graduation, he embarked on a new endeavor focusing on construction projects and managing Airbnb properties. Ben's relentless drive and adaptability have allowed him to explore multiple avenues and leave an indelible mark on each venture he undertakes. He's a second generation immigrant who is passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, crypto investments, and is a firm believer in the Yes in My Backyard movement. He's an extraordinary American, and I'm honored to have him on the show. Hey, Ben, are you there?
Hey Neil, I'm here. I can hear you loud and
Ben,
clear.
thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast with me. I'm really glad you took the time to do this. And I wanted to ask you, Ben. So I know that you're a Gen Z entrepreneur, you're an investor, and you're into programming. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I can just talk about chronologically what I've been doing in the last 5 or 6 years. And it's Neil, it's hard to say any one particular thing that or area I focused on. Rather, I think it was a series of formal and informal entrepreneurial ventures, right? So thinking back to my earliest stage, I think I was like 11 or 12, right? And I was on this one site called Swagbucks. And for those of you that don't know it, it's like a micro task and survey taking website where you would just do things like find coupon codes, take surveys, do watch small videos, and ultimately be able to cash those out for points, right? And there's this one area, like it was watching videos, watching advertiser videos where the 11-year-old me would just accumulate a bunch of points, and eventually I'd redeem them out for gift cards, right? And I was sick of it. I was sick of like spending so much time watching these videos. So I when I was that age, I taught myself how to code, right? It was like using AutoHotkey language. I forgot exactly which. And it would watch the videos for me, right? So I would just leave the script running. I taught myself how to use functions, variables, code it up, and I would run the script, right? It would just do this dumb thing where it would just watch videos. And I remember I would wake up in the morning and I'd have the points equivalent to just $2. And like back then, middle school me, that was a ton of money. I was like so happy just being able to get $2 every day and eventually redeeming them on Amazon and buying whatever a middle schooler buys. It's like school supplies, gum, candy. Man, it was that. So that was probably my first entrepreneurial hustle. Actually, it was more of a hobby at the time, but That's what I got started in. So anyways, so I guess fast forward here, and I was in college, and I studied computer science at UT, right? So it was a pretty stable career. It's not my passion. Rather, I wanted to just have a stable career, have the possibility to save up money through working, getting a job. So it was a safe choice, and I was able to get in, study it. But in college, I think my second venture was operating an Amazon FBA business, right? So pretty much it got started off like I was moving out to college. I had to sell off my personal electronics, right? My personal consoles. I think I sold my PlayStation and GameCube at the time, and they flew off the shelf. As in, I listed them one day and they were gone the next.
Wow.
And to me, I was thinking, who would buy these things? Who would buy these older dusty consoles? But it turns out there was a big market for it just by the fact that they were selling really quickly. And I was just thinking about flipping them at the time, making some extra money in college, right? Like very normal thing. So I went on Alibaba and I found out that there was a big electronics recycling factory going on in China. Pretty much they would take older consoles and just rehabilitate them, refurbish them, and then just sell them to US consumers. And I was able to go on Alibaba and just buy a ton of them, right? They were cheaper, but not too cheap, and I was able to import, I think, dozens of consoles at a time, and just sell them here on Amazon, on eBay, direct. Uh, uh, I will say though that when doing it, it's like a raw product, right? So we get a raw console, and by console I mean think of like PlayStations, Ataris, like retro gaming consoles as well as retro electronics. They're collectibles. People like them, and still nowadays people do. Anyways, back to these Chinese factories would sell you this product, and the quality control was atrocious, Neil, right? So it turns out the quality control was not there. One out of every 10 consoles was defective, as well as they were set in Chinese or Japanese languages, right?
Wow.
In the US market, that just wouldn't fly. So I would have to set them to English by installing custom firmware on it. And this was easy to do. It was a bit technical, but it was easy to just find the software online and just plug in a USB to the console. And so that was the value add, right? I didn't just flip a console. The value add was through quality control. It was through making them English. It was through branding, marketing. We packaged them up into pretty boxes and then included chargers, instruction manuals. And ultimately, it was a product that did very well. We would commonly sell out, actually. So I think at one point, we cleaned out the factory, as in the factory could only supply so many consoles a day, and because they were no longer produced, and they just didn't have any more. So I would just quickly realize that, oh, I'm sorry, let me mute my okay. Sorry about that, Neil. So I would realize that it was not scalable, right? The we would just not be able to get more inventory, and I think that's kind of the upper limit where I kind of started to look into other ventures. It's just difficult to scale it, and also another scalability thing I want to talk about is when you're shipping off 20 to 30 orders a day, it's a lot of work. Like it's I mean, I tried bringing in temp workers, I tried finding assistants off Craigslist. Even then, it's just you hit an upper limit on the amount of like physical products you can sell, and it's just difficult to continue uh doing it. So I think ultimately that kind of would would transition me into the next thing, and that would be a so let's see, I'm on my third venture now. uh it would be a social network, right? So I was in college at the time, a little bit junior year, and I was in computer science, and I was surrounded by a lot of ambitious, high energy software engineers, and some of us just wanted to get together and do a social network. And by that I mean, if you remember back in 2017, 2018, there was a lot of stigma around Facebook, especially with Cambridge Analytica. And for those that don't know, pretty much Facebook was very bad because it was selling data. It was selling personal data. There was
Oh, I
it was
remember that.
You remember that? What do you remember about it?
It was basically like them like without like basically just selling our data and like for marketing and ads, but then a lot of people had an issue with that. It's just like an ethical kind of thing, but it's a story for another time, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And, it's like it was Facebook was very bad and people were looking for a reason to get off it. And which is actually where we decided, okay, here's now's the perfect cultural opportunity to come up with a social network that was focused on philanthropy and good deeds. Right. So by this I mean we wanted to bring together our platform wanted to foster a culture of giving back, of recognizing other people's good deeds, of empowering others to be recognized, empowering others to volunteer, to donate, to give back any way they can. Right. So maybe you have friends that are particularly interested in elderly care, pet care, animal health, sustainability, right? You would be able to come to our platform to find opportunities to volunteer, to just talk about it, or to even connect with people who are also into it in your community. And it was a full-fledged social network, right? So think about like news feed, social sharing. I mean, we borrowed a lot of ideas from Facebook and built them out. And at this point, once we had the product, right, it was a matter of gaining users. So that was done through outreach, just physical outreach, word of mouth, us hosting a lot of volunteer events and recruiting people to use our platform, as well as paid marketing campaigns on Facebook and other and Google Direct. And we managed to get users, right? We acquired users, but the issue was it wasn't sticky, right? User retention was very low. They would come to our platform. We didn't have enough content on there. We didn't have enough users. So, and their friends weren't on it. So it was very easy for them to leave and go back to their original platforms they like to use. And this was a significant challenge. We just also Neil, I think the world is not I'm sorry, not the world. It's rather it is difficult to kind of have that collective movement. It's like our platform was trying to do everything at once. Whereas maybe if we had instead focused on like one particular area of volunteerism, it would have panned out. So it's just like we were trying to boil the ocean. It was very difficult. So the B2C opportunity did not work. So we pivoted to B2B, and that was just selling software to nonprofits, and that didn't pan out either. So it was like a 2-year journey. I mean, we learned a lot, but ultimately we decided to fold it, right? And we folded it. I mean, I spun down the servers, and I guess we just kind of moved on. And I graduated college also around this time, and I started. I guess that's the I'm on the fourth venture here. I guess it would be crypto, right? So I was like a crypto investor for a bit. It didn't start out that way. I was just like educating myself on crypto. I was, of course, a software engineer. It's very common to learn about like coding on the blockchain. It's very common to learn these technical concepts, and I was just kind of educating myself on, I think particular Neil, you might have heard about this, like financial sovereignty, decentralization, Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation were particular things that stood out to me.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I like that was I think I remember meeting you around that time frame, and the reason why we became like we got along so well is because we were passionate about like protecting purchasing power, like cryptos, precious metals and all of that stuff, because we know that fiat money is just being inflated away, you know?
Yeah.
And this is like necessary knowledge, and it's actually like a core part of like the extraordinary American movement is to educate people about inflation and how to protect their own purchasing power in addition to entrepreneurship and business, because you got to do all of it together, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right. Like I think gold and Bitcoin are good inflation hedges, and it's important to for the whole theme of this podcast, like American financial freedom. It's just important. And yeah, so I was a pretty educated crypto investor. I managed to take profits here and there, right? So I did manage to score some wins. I also scored some losses, and ultimately, I think this would ultimately lead to my next venture, right? So I'd have my crypto and I would sell all of it, because with crypto, just like stocks, as you know, you might be rich one year, but then broke the next. right? So you can be one year have tremendous wins, but then the next year it's zero. And that's just the nature of intangible assets.
It's
So I
kind of
want
like when it comes to crypto, it's just like the wild wild west. You know, like it
yeah,
goes up, it goes down, and it's like not like it's basically you have to be on it all the time to see how the markets are going.
exactly. And I didn't want to be like that, right? I wanted to transform them into tangible assets. So part of my strategy was to actually sell off my crypto and go into tangible things like real estate. And I think that's exactly what I did. So to give you context in timeline here, I had just graduated college and I was working at IBM at this time as a software engineer. In fact, I still am working there at a spin-off company. And I wanted to buy a house. I remember in college, I've always wanted to buy a house. I was looking on Zillow for homes when I was in college, just because I wanted to. I think homes are like ownership in a primary residence is fantastic on many ways. I think one, it's a huge source of wealth creation for many Americans. They make most of their money through uh, owning their home over a long period of time. I think having a home is great for the community. You live in a neighborhood, you give back, you know your neighbors. I think it's phenomenal to kind of just uh,
I
have a
mean,
home, right?
totally. Like most of the millionaires, like that you see in recent years are actually coming from real estate.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Um, and back to my home actually. So I sold off my intangible assets and I bought a plot of land actually to build on, right? So this was back in 2019, 2020. There was a plot of land. It was a bigger piece of land. There were a lot of issues with it, but ultimately I was working with an architect and I was going to put a home on it, right? Build a home on it. When most people say building a home, they mean like a subdivision build, which is pretty much for the audience, like in a subdivision, DR Horton or Lenner or any other big home builder, you can customize a home on a given plot of land. But there's another way to do it, and that's when you buy your own plot of land and then hire your own architect and hire your own general contractor and build it yourself, which is what I did. And I embarked on that journey, right? And the architect told me I could either put one house on it, right? One big house, or I could put four smaller ones. And I was kind of like, I don't need a big house. Like, I'm single, I'm not married. I want a small house for myself. And maybe I'll have three I don't know, have for later, or I don't know.
I love where this is going. Ben, I love where this is going. Go keep going, man.
Good to know, Neil. And so instead of like one huge house, I just wanted four smaller townhomes. And townhomes are like connected units, pretty much. Homes side by side, right? So we started building on it. I had my architect design up the plans, and at the time I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I just was going to start. We just started building, right? We had a general contractor, we had an architect, we had our plumbers, right? And man, Neil, I'm telling you, building it was a journey. It sucked. Like it was a 2 to 3 year process, just full of delays, setbacks, running out of money at one point. Um, yeah, it was just like permitting is really hard. Like building, it's not hard, but it's just a process where you have to overcome small hurdles every day just to get the finished product. And it was a 2 or 3 year process, right? So permitting, getting the entitlements, like pretty much the city tells you what you can and can't build. And then we just started building. And with construction, it's hard because a lot of it's waiting. It's sequential, right? So in other words, the drywall cannot go in until the insulation goes in. The insulation cannot go in until the framing is up. The framing cannot go up until the slab is up. The slab cannot go up until the site is graded and leveled, right? So it's like very sequential, very time intensive, and there's just a process you have to follow. Like we tried our best, but it was just still took a while. So fast forward. I'm sorry if I'm boring you here, Neil.
No,
uh,
no, no. This is like really like this, I'm going to be asking more questions regarding this real estate thing that you did. So go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So
Loving this.
fast forward, it's finally done, right? So many hurdles, it's done. I move in, and it's like I have three other units. What do I do with them? And I tried getting long-term tenants in there. It's kind of difficult to just because it's hard to find four guys who are willing to share a house, I mean. It's hard to find four girls, four guys to share a house. So we kind of, it was my idea actually. I think around the time Airbnb was very popular, it still is. So like why not turn them into Airbnbs, right? I would live on site, but at the same, I don't mind living next to Airbnbs. I mean, maybe I'll party with them. Like, like who knows? It's cool by me. It's cool if they're bumping their music. And that's exactly what we did. So we turned two of them into Airbnbs. One of them, I moved my mom in with me, actually. My mom lives in one of them. I live in the other, and the other two are Airbnbs. So weekend parties, right? Bachelorette parties. They come here every weekend. They stay in the home. Football season's big. Of course, you know, Neil, you once lived in Austin. South by ACL are big. And it's just like the hospitality industry. Just it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. You just kind of turn over the house, get it ready for the next group, and deal with questions as they come up. I will say though that one thing happened is Airbnb is not like the Airbnb bust is real. By that I mean in the last year, Airbnb has not been performing as well. And what you see is a lowering of revenue, a lowering of occupied nights. So it was my idea to pivot from Airbnb into monthly furnished rooms, right? So by this, I mean, we have a room. Each room has its own bathroom. The house was designed that way. It just was. Each room has its own bathroom, so it makes it very easy for someone to just live here for a month. Maybe they're in between leases. Maybe they're. We get a lot of digital nomads, travel nurses, traveling attorneys, people who are on contract gigs. Just a lot of people need temporary, like 1 to 3 month stays in Austin, right? And they don't mind sharing a house, right? Like it's not a big deal. So now that's what we're doing. So effectively, there are about 10 or 12 bedrooms that I manage, pretty much just getting people in here for a month, 2 months at a time, and then they're off, right, to do their next thing. And some of the people we've had in here for quite some time, like 6 months now, right, 7 months, and it's been great. It's been we have high occupancy. We're seeing I think it's great because I get to talk to people. I love meeting people. I love meeting the guests. I love getting to know what they do. So, and I don't mind sharing my home. I have four roommates actually, and I don't mind it at all. I love it. Um, and so that's what we're doing right now and we plan to go back to Airbnb. It's just when the market's right. I mean, we're in kind of there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now, and we're just taking it one day at a time. But this is a way to get there.
Ben, I really love the part where you turn this plot of land into like these like so the first thing that I really love and like the reason I'm going to tell you why is because you basically in a way you came across a strategy which I myself am like writing in my ebook for Extraordinary America, which is basically
Mhm.
called the wealth cycle strategy. So literally what it is basically you have like how whenever real estate is overvalued or stocks are overvalued and then you have gold and silver or something or like something like cryptos like Bitcoin, they're undervalued and then like they keep moving in cycles where like if one thing is up the other thing is usually down. And so what you mentioned over here was you sold your asset like your intangible assets like crypto, right? And then you basically decide to invest in a land and you use part of those proceeds to do that. So basically what I'm writing in the ebook is that once gold and silver or like precious metals like they reach an all-time high and then real estate eventually comes down because it's an inverse proportion like in the next financial crisis, which I think will happen within a year or two. Then you when gold and silver reaches its peak, you basically take the proceeds and you buy real estate and then you rent out those homes because now let's say you bought $100,000 worth of gold, precious metals, or Bitcoin, And then Bitcoin and then precious metals rise up like 3 times, right, on a conservative estimate, right? And then real estate goes down, and then you sell the precious metals and everything, and then you use that same cash, and then you buy real estate with it. Now you're buying more real estate with the same amount of money. So let's say like $100,000 worth of money could now be $300,000 worth of money. And since real estate prices would go down in the event of like a recession or whatever, you're buying even more real estate with the same proceeds. And now your strategy of turning it into an Airbnb or a monthly rent kind of type of thing, or even like renting it out, now you're just generating incoming revenue. And basically, you're getting more bang for the buck because now you're buying more real estate, and then with the proceeds from that, you can basically compound and multiply. You see where I'm getting at?
Yeah, yeah. No, I see exactly. I would agree with you, Neil. Like a cyclical strategy where you're buying low and selling high across different asset classes is probably like amazing. It's just hard to do, right? Like how do you how do
I
you
mean,
time it?
all, I mean, obviously you have to be looking at the markets, right? Especially crypto, it's a wild, wild mess. But you've seen how Bitcoin, it at one point, like I think in 2019 or whatever, or like one of those years, it was at 20,000 and then it jumped to 60,000 or something, and then back again. But let's say it was at 20,000, for instance, and it jumps to 60,000, and at that moment you figure out now is the time to sell. Like normally, like 3 times, like when it reaches 3 times, 2 to 3 times its original value, and then you sell it off, and then you use those same proceeds to buy real estate, or like basically get mortgages where like where you get multiple mortgages where you have like the down payments, but you get the houses, but now you're renting them out or Airbnb, right? Like what you're saying. Then you're having incoming money, and then from that you basically take the profits, and then you just continue to do more real estate. But usually these cycles happen like over a long period of time, but there's small periods of time, like a financial crisis like 2008, where gold and silver went up really high. Like at that time, gold jumped up 50%, silver went to $48 an ounce. And then again in 2020, I think it rised up a little bit. But in the next financial crisis, there's like a recession or something, and then real estate goes down or whatever. Those that have invested in precious metals or Bitcoin, and like it'll basically rise up, and then you at the correct moment, if you manage to cash it out and then use it to get real estate, and then you just rent it out or do Airbnb, you're basically set for life, if anything.
Yeah, yeah. And onto that, I would say to watch the Bitcoin price because right now we are in an accumulation phase. But yeah, it's just it's hard to time the market, but if you do it right, then there are big rewards for those that do.
Like massive gains, which is why like I found like it's like because you talked about crypto investing, but then like you proceeded to like talk about real estate investing. It just reminded me of what of like the strategy that I'm talking about in my upcoming ebook. And
Hmm.
basically it's just about like wealth, understanding how wealth cycles work. Because if you
Hmm.
understand how assets work and how sometimes some asset classes are undervalued and other asset classes are overvalued, you can basically take advantage of the asset values, like changing, like switching. It's kind of like a wave. It goes to a peak and then it goes down and then it goes to a peak, and you just got to find out those times when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I
uh,
totally agree
so
with what you say. I'm excited for that strategy to come out, that your ebook, I mean.
yeah, but Ben, I wanted to ask a little bit more about like this. So what was like the motivating factor that got you to like start doing real estate investing, and or like basically doing the Airbnb strategy and buying a plot of land, and like because and just getting a townhouse out? Because I think that it's an amazing strategy, and it's something that Gen Z entrepreneurs and other people should definitely look into, is basically how to like get real estate and turn it into a means of attaining passive income. Because what you're
Yeah.
doing is basically having incoming, and all you're doing is just managing the houses. And yeah, there's going to be a couple of like bad people, bad hombres or whatever here and there, but overall, they're going to be like it's the are the risks worth the rewards, according to you?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I would say my motivation personally comes from a little topic that I touched on earlier, and that's home ownership, right? So what you see is that historically, a lot of Americans make their wealth, and I'm repeating myself, through their home, right? So in over 30 years, when they're owning their asset, homes have historically appreciated at 4 or 5% above inflation, right? So not only is it keeping up with inflation, but it appreciates slightly beyond then. And what you end up getting is you buy a house 30 years ago, and now you're sitting on a bunch of equity that you can tap into, that you can sell, and also that maybe you are it's like a forced savings account, right? Putting when you get a mortgage, it's like putting money into your house instead of maybe like spending it because it's there. So I would say I was exposed to those principles early in my life, and I just wanted a house also. Like I'm kind of a DIYer. I like to just fix things up and maybe take mow the lawn. It might sound boring to some people, but so getting, I think, a house for me was important. And I would say also house hacking, right? So the concept of like what motivates me is I think it having roommates, for example, whether it's through what I'm doing, or even if you buy just a smaller home and have 2 or 3 roommates to help you out with the bills. I think that's a very good strategy towards um, uh, helping pay off the mortgage, or even just having financial security. As far as the motivation goes onto this, I think, I mean, I keep repeating myself, but again, I think having a house is good for the community. It's good to just live and give where you are. And I would say also another thing, Neil, is talking aloud. I realize housing is pretty it's not like crypto, right? It's relatively reliable, it's relatively stable, right? Even though it could crash like we've seen it crash in Austin 20%, overall it holds its value really well, especially in the US. I mean, you compare this to China, where real estate market has stagnated for the last 10, 20 years and beyond. Like the US real estate market is we're really good.
Yeah, there seems to there's always a lot of buyers like when it comes to the United States compared to like other places. But Ben, there's one thing that I wanted to ask you, like, so I know you've done all these ventures and you're really highly entrepreneurial and everything. So my question is, during all these ventures, from the e-commerce business to like crypto investing to doing this Airbnb, what is the biggest lesson you learned when it came to doing the Airbnb, to all of this, especially when it came to like doing the Airbnb and just like having these incoming money and then managing all these people.
Yeah. The biggest lesson, I think there's 2 of them. And that's, one is to have a support group, not a support group, but have someone you can talk to, right? Because in any entrepreneurial venture, you will face setbacks, hurdles. It's very easy to get dejected, maybe in a huge negative thing that happens. I remember when building the house, there was so much shit that went wrong. Like there was it was just seemed insurmountable. It seemed finishing it would just not be possible. In my Amazon business, I got banned off Amazon one time, and it's like, how am I ever going to sell again? And just kind of like taking it, having someone to talk to. I find that when someone self-talks, when someone spends a lot of time ruminating, it's draining. It's very easy to like overthink yourself. And instead, if you find someone who's supportive, right? Make sure you surround yourself with good people, and not people who might drain your energy. But when you find that good energy and you talk to them, just through the process of talking through it, you will not only feel better, but maybe you'll find a solution yourself and they'll help you find one. And on to tangenting off of that, right? It's like you will face a lot of setbacks in any entrepreneurial venture. It's just a matter of picking yourself up and calmly telling yourself that, okay, I have this, I got this, I will overcome this. Uh, if it's just 1% better every day, 1% solved compared to yesterday, I think that's progress. And I think it's important to remind yourself of that, because it's very easy, especially if you're by yourself here, it's very easy to have a cycle of self-doubt.
So Ben, one of the things that I admire about you is that you go through all these you've gone through all these different entrepreneurial ventures and you've gone through a lot of setbacks, but you never gave up. And you're like a young Gen Z entrepreneur. Like you were doing entrepreneurship like even when you were in college. And like you were doing college and you were doing a business and you're also like doing like programming. Like you were doing multiple things at a time. So a lot of like Gen Z people, I feel like they have a fear of failure when it comes to starting like a business or something. So if you had to advise like your fellow Gen Z people on how on starting a business and becoming successful, or like basically getting real estate and and doing the Airbnb strategy, how would you go about advising them regarding like attaining income on a passive level?
Wait, sorry, Neil, just to clarify the question, are you asking about getting over fear of failure and how it relates to making income?
Yeah, like literally, how would you advise Gen Z people about like getting over the fear of failure and then going about on a strategic way to succeed in whatever they're doing?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's okay to fail. I think I mean, for sure it's okay to fail in entrepreneurship. People will fail dozens of times, a handful of times before they nail a single product. I think to start making money from in venture early on, it takes luck and skill and finesse, and it's not likely. So I think just embracing a mindset that failure is inevitable, failure will happen, but it's okay because you can pick yourself up. You can recover. Yeah, financially, it might hurt a little bit. You might spend some time that you won't get back, but you instead need to frame it as a lesson, frame it as this is what how I can improve next time, how I will not make the same mistake. And that in itself is um I will help out towards maybe a later venture, right? In terms of relating this back to income, I think I think it's largely the same process. Maybe you lose money in one venture, but like I did, I lost my. I wouldn't say all my products on Amazon were successes. I remember this one product I tried selling. I imported from China. I bought I bought 1,000 USB cables, right? So they none of them sold. So I had 1,000 USB cables sitting in my room, just like
So Ben, here's the thing. Like, yeah, you bought that, and then like so like you had this thing where you lost money. So a lot of people are afraid of losing money. So like, how did you go beyond the fear of like lose? Because that's one of the number one things that people are afraid of. Like when starting a business, like what if I lose the money? And like basically, like what I personally would say is that you have to have non-attachment, but it's just so difficult to do. But what are your thoughts on that?
yeah, no, honestly, that's a hard question. I wouldn't say I know the answer yet, because it's because people have different thresholds of like financial attachment, right? For me, that 1,000 cables or like $1,000 on a new prototype is especially for me because I'm fortunate. I was fortunate to be working a corporate job. I was fortunate to have financial savings,
What happened
which
to those 1,000 cables? I know I
oh man.
interrupted. Yeah.
Oh, so all my friends had some chargers for like the rest of their life. They never they were bad anyways, but like yeah, I ended up donating them. No one wanted them.
Wow. Wow, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly I would say like it's really difficult because I know $1,000 setback might be more for some people than others. And I would say I would kind of spin the question around, kind of maybe I think corporate is a very good avenue for saving up money, right? I think savings are the backbone of entrepreneurship. It's kind of a precursor. So I think being any type of venture takes an upfront investment, whether it's time or money. And having that savings in place at first, especially money, is really important. You'll find out, I mean, to make money, you got to spend money. So I would suggest for those that maybe are have a fear of maybe spending too much money, just to be cognizant of how much money you're spending on your venture, but also it's okay. It's okay to lose money on your venture. I mean, you can work and save up more and um just have a plan when you're doing it.
No, totally. Personally, I think that you have to be willing to lose money. Like you cannot attain success in business if you don't have a certain level of non-attachment. I know that, as you say, the threshold is different for different people, but yeah, it's easier said than done. But when you're actually losing the money, like that can hit different people hard, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So, so Ben, I had a question. Like, so as an entrepreneur, right? As a young entrepreneur, right? And knowing what you know about crypto and just like, and just like different asset classes, what was your advice to your Gen Z peers regarding inflation, handling inflation and debt?
Hmm. Yeah, I think inflation is real. It's very real. It's bad. I think we've talked breached the topic of hedging against inflation through asset classes like real estate, like Bitcoin, like gold. I think depending on your comfort level, right, you have to be honest with yourself on what asset class maybe you're into and what you want to use and what you trust yourself with. But inflation is very real, and I think real estate is a good way to hedge against it. As far as debt goes, I want to clarify something, Neil. Do you mean like what do we mean by debt? Because I think there's good
Oh,
and there's bad debt.
oh yeah, so like I mean, of course, like for most people, they think debt is bad, but like obviously there's consumer debt and then there's strategic debt, which is used to
Mhm.
acquire assets or to start a business. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm talking about in this case, like I would say like basically the consumer debt.
yeah.
And then if you could add how they can use debt on a strategic way, that would be pretty good as well, because you and I both know that you can use debt in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very easy to fall into consumer debt. It's very easy to open a credit card. It's very easy to rack up so many purchases. Especially in the US here, for those viewers that are not in the US, we have a very consumer and capitalist society here. People make it very, very easy to oh, just pay it off later, buy it now. We'll just bill you over the next few months to several years for your phone, for your clothes even. So I think there's almost like a societal problem with that, where we need to start teaching financial education. We need to teach in schools, especially like getting your credit score up, taxing. I'm sorry, doing your taxes, budgeting. I think help financial education in the community, financial education at the individual level are all very important. And I think America does not do a good job at that. It takes effort to go out and educate yourself. And many people do not have the privilege. I have the privilege of it because my parents told me to, but many people do not. And it's tough. It really is tough. People need to do work to educate themselves on financial freedom, and it's difficult to many. And as far as strategy wise, so once you educate yourself, right, now you can kind of come up with strategies towards acquiring good debt. And this comes in the form of housing, this comes in the form of business loans, this comes in the form of uh just spending capital now to make money later, right, over something like credit card debt, which is bad. uh Given that credit card debt wasn't used for a good reason. But yeah, I mean, those are just my thoughts. I'm
Yeah.
rambling a bit.
No, it totally makes sense. Like, because it is definitely a thing that, like our generation of millennials and Gen Z, we're definitely facing this issue of like rampant inflation, and it's something that like I'm putting in my upcoming ebook is basically about the threat of even further big inflation, hyperinflation. Because like right now, you have the interest rates as of like August of 2023. We have interest rates at about 5.5% on a federal level, which is crazy. And like this is gonna eventually lead to a lot of like companies closing, like over a year or so. And then in order to stave that off, like the banks and government, they're gonna print a lot of money. And at some point it's gonna lead to even more inflation. So like the public needs to be educated on how to hedge against inflation and how to not get consumer debt. And if they're going to use debt, it is to either start a business with a good chance of success, or to like invest in asset classes that will rise in value, like gold, silver, Bitcoin. Of course, they're going to do the due diligence, but like real estate and all of that stuff.
Yeah. No, Neil, I thought that was a good point. Like, what upcoming businesses will bust in the US, right? Because of like interest rates are so high. Like to get a loan, I just applied for a loan, 10%. Like, no one can, it's very hard to afford that. So I'm very interested in seeing like what businesses fold.
Yeah, it's not gonna be pretty, but I mean, it is what it is, right? It's gonna happen in the future. All we can do is basically come up with a strategy to protect our purchasing power. You know, like our money. Like let's say you're having 100,000 in the bank, right? How much? It's not how much money you have; it's how much you can buy with that, right? And inflation is just eating away at that money. Like, within like even like 2 years' time, you won't be able to buy as much with your $1,000 or $5,000 or even $10,000 as you can like right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, it exactly. And yeah, it's tough. I saw it with grocery prices, cars, it's just less bang for your buck.
No, totally. So Ben, there's one thing I wanted to ask you. So as a Gen Z entrepreneur, what do you think is like what do you think is the greatest challenge that your fellow Gen Z people and millennials for that matter have when it comes to attaining the American dream, and how can they overcome that challenge?
Ooh, ooh, that that's a tricky question. I like don't know where to start by that, right? So I think the American dream is more I think it is more attainable and less attainable than ever. More attainable in the context of with globalization, with new online platforms, with Etsy, with Upwork. It is more easy, and with the surplus of education online, it is very easy to go out and find a product to sell, to like effectively solve a problem and monetize it. Just as soon as you solve a problem, you can start. It's a good way to make money, right? Solving someone else's problems. I think it's also very difficult for the American dream because, I mean, the American dream once, the definition once included owning a house. The definition once included owning a car and opening a business. And I think those are two of those are hard right now, right? Owning a house is very expensive. New cars are expensive. So I think from an economic standpoint, the American dream is a little bit further out than maybe it once was 30, 40 years ago. And that would actually lead me to my point that I think financially I'm uncertain of where we're heading, right? I'm uncertain of how expensive products and services will be in the next uh decade. I am unsure of like the days of low interest rates. I don't know if they're coming back, which is going to make it more harder to open a business. It's going to make it more expensive to borrow money for your business. And I would just say there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I mean, everyone's watching the Fed, so I don't really know how to answer your question, Neil. Sorry, it's just a lot of uncertainty, both good and bad.
No, I mean, totally. Like right now the American dream, in my opinion, is under threat, but mainly because of like bad financial policies on the level of like the banks and like the government, because like they're literally inflating the money away. So it's becoming harder and harder because there's a concept, right, like where you have like a stagnant income where your income is not, it doesn't rise in proportion to inflation or like the rise in prices. There's always a lag time, and in that lag time people suffer the consequences, you know. but
Yeah,
but the only way I would say, in my opinion, to continue to attain the American dream is through financial education. Like that is a must. It has to be that way, and we're living in new times and we have to adjust and adapt accordingly, and that's the only way we can do it, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. No, I would agree. I think like financially, it's just there's a lot of doubt on like it just wasn't as good as it was. I think also one thing I was thinking of recently, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is the concept of like how the climate is making things more expensive, right? So in other words, climate change, whether it's it's human made or even natural, how is it causing everything to become more expensive, whether it's insurance premiums, whether it's food, whether it's things like, I'm just thinking about electric cars. Like, the government mandated cars to be electric, right? So they have to research and develop these expensive batteries and then pass on those costs to the consumer. So I'm thinking, like car companies are fine using gas. They're fine. I mean, gas is it's an old technology. It's cheaper to just buy a gas car. But now with electrification, the costs are passed on to the consumers because of the climate. Because no, okay, now we have to invest in a new, more expensive technology.
So I think to answer your question, in another world where we had sound money, where money was backed by, let's say, gold or something like that instead of fiat, and it wasn't getting inflated at a rapid rate. Like for instance, in 2022, it was like at 9%, right? The inflation rate was it came up to 9 or 10%. And let's say in another world where there's barely any inflation, there was like sound, like the economy was healthy and everything, maybe, but like in today's world, I would say that it has to be cost effective for our fellow Americans, because if they cannot afford it, then how, like, already life is hard as it is trying to make ends meet. And on top of that, if you're gonna do this thing to be like for the sake of the environment, but it's going at the expense of the people, then that's an issue. It has to be a balance, you know? Like you have
Yeah,
to be environment friendly, but it's also got to be cost effective for the masses.
yeah, yeah. I would
you
agree
have
with
to
all
think,
that.
you have to think about the people first, but that's just like my own personal opinion, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Ben, I wanted to ask you about, like, so what upcoming real estate projects that are you having right now, and would you want the audience to get a glimpse into that?
Yeah, yeah. I will say real estate right now is a bit tricky with the high interest rates. We have a couple small projects going on. We have a small lot near the lake going on. That's just a build, and we are currently exploring other opportunities through land acquisition. But again, like it's hard. Like, homes are still expensive and rates are still high. So just stay tuned for that.
Awesome, Ben. Ben, how can our audience connect with you and get to know more about you and like what you're doing, or if they wanted advice on real estate strategy or Airbnb and all of that, how would they connect with you?
Ooh, um, I do not have a website yet, but let me spin one up and I'll send it to you, Neil, and you can put it in the comments.
Okay, like do you have like an email or something where they can reach out to you if they wanted to?
Yeah, yeah. Let us do, you just use my LinkedIn, just search up Benjamin Chen, Austin, Texas, and you should be able to find me. But otherwise, yeah, feel free to connect with me, shoot me a message. If you have any opportunities going on, just I'd like to just learn about them.
Okay, awesome, Ben. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this show. Like the advice that you're giving regarding real estate and like Airbnb and even like cryptos, it's like amazing. Like this is like important education that people should know, and I am so glad that you took the time to do the show with me.
Yeah, thank you, Neil, for having me. Thank you for bringing on Gen Z viewpoints. So, and thank you for I mean, doing this. You're helping out the community.
No, totally, Ben. I appreciate that. And I want to conclude this episode by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, listen, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now.
Hey there, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets you free. Also, remember that your purchasing power is being diluted through inflation, and then the practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power by investing in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Also, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.